Welcome to Jewish Cinémathèque, where we meet some of the important faces involved with films that tackle aspects of the Jewish experience. Today, I'm joined by writer-director Eytan Fox, or in Israel, he's called Eytan Fox, who I first met when he was presented in Philadelphia with the first Jack Wolfson Award for Achievement in Israeli Cinema. A list of awardees that include Gila Almagor, Yoram Gaon, and Asi Dayan. His film Sublet tells the story of a gay New York Times reporter who comes to Tel Aviv to do research for an article that he's writing. There he meets Tomer, a film student, whose apartment he is subletting.
Hello, I'm Michael. I'm subletting the apartment.
So how's Tel Aviv?
It's a kind of a strange mixture. Not sure I can figure it out.
Who is that?
My landlord.
Oh my God, he's hot.
Oh, stop. You could be his dad.
But I'm not.
So what's the plan?
I write a column for the New York Times, The Intrepid Traveler. Turn it down a little bit. It's just a name, though.
So you're not really intrepid?
I try to be. I have a list. All those the must-sees?
Yeah. If you are a Jewish princess on her birthright tour, yeah. Come, I will show you the best pomegranate juice in Tel Aviv.
בוודאי, 30 שקלים בבקשה.
You have small change, maybe? Thanks. So you wrote a book once. What was it about?
New York City in the late 80s, early 90s.
It's so depressing. Why does everything always has to go back to that?
Well, I didn't go back. I was there. I sort of wrote the book in real time.
I'll be your home, I'll be your country, I'll be your northern star.
Maybe you could show me around the city.
I'll be your landscape.
Israelis really try to be nice to tourists. They want to feed you. They want to tell you stories.
Do you have children?
We did try, my husband and I.
Everything is possible now.
I'm not so sure about that.
You and David, you still have sex?
We do occasionally have sex.
Occasionally.
Wow. I really don't get this. How is that any way to meet somebody?
A quick way, with no drama.
I hate to be the guy who says when I was your age.
Don't think it's too late for you.
The idea is to see how much I can discover about a city.
I'll be the note that holds the chord, I'll be a symphony.
And what did you discover about Tel Aviv?
It's unlike any other place I visited.
I will be that one.
Over the years, in a growing body of work, Fox has introduced us to the metropolis, sometimes called the White City or the non-stop city that he so deeply loves and admires, and its varied population. Tel Aviv is also known internationally as one of the most gay-friendly cities in the world. Sublet is yet another insightful study of the city, founded just a little over a century and a decade ago, and its varied inhabitants. The film opened a COVID-delayed Jerusalem Film Festival in December 2020, has won all kinds of awards, and has been a favorite at both Jewish and non-Jewish film festivals across North America. Eytan, welcome to Jewish Cinémathèque. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Eytan, so this is a film, I mean, it's not as if you're a first-time filmmaker. You have challenged Israeli society with films that have been groundbreaking, that have broken all kinds of barriers. You had two soldiers kissing, two male soldiers kissing in Yossi and Jagger. You had a Mossad agent in Walk on Water who basically is tired of killing and he challenges. So do you see your work as a way of challenging and making Israel a better society?
I try not to think that way, but I know that I've contributed with my films to try and change Israel. When I was a young man in Jerusalem in the early 80s, if you tell me that there would be these kind of films like Yossi and Jagger or Sublet for that matter, I'd say you're crazy. Who's going to be making these films? Who will be showing them in Israel? So things have changed. I'm proud to say that I've been part of that change. But you know what? I try to not think that way, and just to try and make films about myself and about, my loved ones and the people who are close to me, and Tel Aviv, my wonderful city, and Israel, my difficult, complicated, wonderful country. So that's what I try to do. And yes, in my characters, in my story, in my life story, there are American Jews, Michael's character, my parents for that matter, or, he's more my age, but my parents brought us to Israel when I was 3 years old.
From the United States.
Yeah. It's okay. So I was born in Manhattan, and my parents decided to move to Israel in 1967. But I grew up in a very American household in Jerusalem. You could imagine my parents moving from Manhattan, my mother, the elegant New Yorker, moving to Jerusalem, this shtetl in the mid 60s. So I have America in my soul. And therefore, this character of Michael, the American writer from the New York Times, who's played by John Benjamin Hickey, that was another exploring another side of mine, like the American side, the American Jewish side, and bringing him over to Israel for his first time since his bar mitzvah, and dealing with his issues with Judaism, whatever. It was again me trying to deal with my issues. I get a chance to make a film once every few years, and I say, okay, what am I dealing with now? What's piled up in my soul, in my head? What am I supposed to process? What do I want to process and make a film out of?
Your father was a preeminent Jewish educator who made Aliyah, and you grew up in that kind of household where Jewish identity and Judaism was central to your being, and the very fact that your parents picked up and moved to Israel. And in the character, the John Benjamin Hickey character, he seems to be struggling with his Jewish identity. As you mentioned, he had last been to Israel when he was a bar mitzvah. So talk a little bit about that for you as an American Jew who made Aliyah with his parents. Clearly at age 3, he didn't have much of a say. But talk a little bit more about how that character really epitomizes you.
Well, I'm happy that you noticed that, of course you did, being who you are, that the whole Jewishness of the character and the complexities that come with it. He is someone who is, I don't know if in denial of his Judaism, but who doesn't feel so Jewish. And he's complicated with his Judaism, and complicated with his father, that I guess was very much into his Judaism, was a real Jew or a good Jew or someone who cared about his Judaism and Israel. And Don's character, Michael, is very much, not into his Judaism and Israel. He's a travel writer who's never come to Israel since his bar mitzvah, as you mentioned. I don't know, the whole business of being between Israel and America is a big thing in my life. And, we moved to Israel. Both my brothers moved back to the States after their army services and university studies. I stayed here. It's an ongoing struggle, because you would expect me, as someone who's been a successful film director and television director in Israel, to maybe go back or move to the States in order to become an American film director, work in Hollywood, make big films, make a lot of money. And that has been an issue in my life. So I guess making Sublet was some kind of talking about that as well, being between Israel and America. Yeah.
I sometimes hear from Americans and Americans who've made Aliyah and have become film directors in Israel that they are often seen as outsiders, even though in your case, you've lived in Israel almost all of your life. Have you experienced that? Is that what you're in part talking about?
Well, my parents were very much strangers in a strange land. You know, they were, I said this, it was Jerusalem, and then 1967 was really a shtetl. And my mother, who is this elegant New Yorker, thought she has to leave her house with a little small, black dress and high heels and white gloves sometimes and pearls. And I said, Mom, do not pick me up from school, close to school, opposite school, go 2 blocks away, pick me up 2 blocks away from school. You don't look like the other mothers. Other mothers were wearing these, simpler clothes with their bags going to the market, and you don't look like the other mothers. So yeah, I was ashamed of my mom. She was very much not an Israeli when we moved to Israel. On the foods we ate, no one else ate pancakes for breakfast or mac and cheese. My mother didn't know how to make hummus or shakshuka or all the things that my friends around me were eating, So, and I think, I was an American kid, and I had to. So it was the whole thing of, you look at the world, at Israel from an outsider's point of view, and I think that's true of a gay kid as well. That you're different, and you have to have all these little ways of seeing the world and understanding what are the powers and what are the people and how you kind of find your way inside that in the world, which is not you. You're gay, the world's straight. You're American, the world around you is Israeli, and so on and so forth. So I think that maybe contributed to me becoming a film director, because I was constantly looking at the world from a very specific point of view and trying to understand it and making up stories about it and so on. So I think maybe that had to do with me becoming a film director.
You grew up in an Israel that was really homophobic, where a gay person could not very easily come out and be accepted. A very different world than Israel today, than Tel Aviv today. In Sublet, there are 2 very different characters. There's this American Jew we've talked about, and Tomer, this young film student, could be the son of Michael, and he's free-flying, totally comfortable in his skin.
Yeah.
When you created these 2 characters, is that you? Is that someone else? Is that what you should have been when you were 20 or 25?
I think there was some of me, there's a cliche when an artist or director will say there's some of me in each character in the film. There is some of me in both characters. Today, more of me in the older Michael than in the younger Tomer. I've been making films about young people in Tel Aviv, or television shows like Florentine or The Bubble and so on. So when I made those films or those television projects, I was more the Tomer. I was more the young guy. I knew what was going on. I was cool. I knew all the right hangout places, where to go, how to talk, what music to listen to, how to dress, and so on and so forth. When I was working on Sublet, people around me were saying, Eytan, you need a lot of help. You don't really know what's going on in the new young Tel Aviv. So I hired some experts on young Tel Aviv, or the young world for that matter. And yeah, so I'm more the older guy. But the mechanism that I used was to kind of get, have the older man meet a younger man, and for them to kind of learn about each other and learn about themselves, looking at each other, learn about themselves. It was, and John and Neve, the actor, John Demigi and Neve Nissim became so close. It was like art imitating life, life imitating art. And I saw what I saw happening in real life between these 2 men, one American, one Israeli, one 50-something, one 20-something, both artists, both gay, both openly gay. It was so interesting to see these things happening. I was trying to be very non-judgmental of the young, Tomer, or young people in general, specifically young Tel Avivians, specifically young gays in Tel Aviv. it was difficult. I was judgmental, and I was struggling. And of course, I learned that there are beautiful things about this new world, and things that I don't really like and don't care for, or are very much not me. And I wouldn't want to be that or them. Yeah.
It's fascinating that you brought in Itai Segal, who is 20 years younger than you are, to sort of help you with some of the writing. You know, your career is just so varied, and it's you've done such wonderful work. There's a series that most Americans will not know about called Florentine that you did, a TV miniseries.
Yeah.
Very popular in Israel. And there's one scene that I remember where a young man goes to his father, who is a high-ranking officer, maybe even a general in the Israeli army, and says to him, "Dad, I'm gay." What was it like for you as a young person, and today as an acknowledged spokesperson in a certain way, or at least visually a spokesperson for the LGBTQ community? Then and now.
Yeah. Well, things have changed dramatically. You know, it's like when I came out, it was still very uncommon to be out. You know, it was difficult for my parents, of course. It was difficult for everyone around me. I was closeted for quite a few years as a soldier, as a young man, as a teenager. I was a closeted, a gay teenager, young man. For the character in Florentine that you mentioned, it was still a struggle. It was still very difficult to kind of confront his father, his tough Israeli father, and say, "Dad, I'm gay." It's become so much easier. It's forever going to be an issue, coming out to your parents, but it's so much easier. And Tel Aviv is such an amazing city in that respect. It's such a gay-friendly city. It's such just a friendly city in general. It's very accepting of the other. It's a wonderful place. I really, think the world of it. And I'm happy to see that people are really feeling that they've been, transported to Tel Aviv with the film, because this has been such a bad year where we were stuck in our apartments, no one could travel anywhere. And if you have this film to send to the world, and it gives people the experience of traveling, and of traveling to Tel Aviv more specifically, so you feel you've really done your thing. I was very happy about that, at least.
It's almost like a trilogy. I mean, you have Cupcakes, you have The Bubble. Is this like the third? Do you expect? I mean, the way Woody Allen has an affair with Manhattan, you're having this love affair with, is it set in Florentine?
Well, yes. I mean, people were saying, Florentine's too gentrified. You have to go like a kilometer to your right. That's called Levinsky. That's the real place to be at. And that's where young people live. So, okay, very similar. I don't think there's a big difference, but I was trying to be, I told you, as authentic as possible with the help of young artists that I was working with. Yeah.
In 2002, you decided to make a film about two gay male soldiers. Historically, the Israel Defense Forces has assisted filmmakers in many cases. How were they when you approached them to help you make that film?
Not very helpful. Not very helpful. They didn't really assist me. It was interesting. When I approached them and I said, "Listen, I'm making this film about two male soldiers in the Israeli army. I need your help. There's almost no way to make an Israeli film about the army without the army's support." And they knew at the time, or by that time, they knew that they had to be politically correct, that it was unpolitically correct to say we won't support a film about LGBT characters or soldiers or whatever. And so I said, well, we're not going to support this film, but not because of it being gay, God forbid, but for the fact that they are both from different ranking soldiers. One's a higher officer, a lower officer, whatever. I don't know. They used that excuse, which was a joke, of course, because simultaneously there was this show on television called, what was it called? Tironut, if I'm not mistaken, where there are, of course, many love stories going on between male and female soldiers who were from different ranks and different, So, but then, okay. And then once Yoshi and Jagger became this international success, actually, they came back to me, the army, and they said, "Okay, you've probably did you've done something interesting or meaningful. Let us take your film and show it to soldiers in the Israeli army. And that was, and now they're showing Yossi and Jag as part of their program, their cultural program for Israeli soldiers. And then when I made the sequel, Yossi, the army approached me and said, listen, can we help in any way, matter, or form?
Wow.
So that gives you like the change that Israel went through. I made Yossi 10 years after Yossi and Jag, and by that film, the army was already, okay, can we help you? So, yeah.
So many of the politicians who are now going to be in the Knesset have spoken very clearly about strong anti-LGBTQ policies. And I imagine, your funding for your films comes from a source that's part of the Israeli government. Do you see that affecting you going forward?
Well, it's complicated. On the one hand, you have conservative, religious party, right-wing parties who are saying we don't really want to support LGBT causes. We don't want to make the right laws, pass the right laws to enable us to be, to have the whole surrogacy process happen in Israel. My friends, young gay couples have to go. It used to be India, Thailand, now the States, in order to have their children born. But on the other hand, we have 5 members of Knesset who are openly gay. So there has been progress and there has been regression, and it's an ongoing struggle, and people should be, not how do you say, letting off their guard? Something like that. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people, and that's why I'm constantly, I'm saying there's wonderful progress in Israel and worldwide, but I still have to make films about these issues. I still have to, be cautious and look at the world and see that, things are going forward and not backwards. Yeah.
In your first feature film, I believe you had a young actor in his early 30s who now is somehow has something to do with Israeli politics. Is it Yair Lapid?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you kept up a relationship with him, and have you ever talked about politics?
I think, I don't want to sound too melodramatic, but he is actually our savior, really. Now, Yair Lapid is really. He's done such amazing stuff to create this government that is going to be our new government. He was supposed to be our new prime minister, but he was really so amazing, and he's because the only way to make this happen is allow Naftali Bennett to be the first prime minister. He's going to be a prime minister for 2 years. Hopefully, this will, this government will keep on living, and then Yair Lapid will be the prime minister. Yes, he starred in my first film, in Song of the Siren, that you of course know, and he was a very cool, good-looking young man at the time. He still is good-looking, but now he's a very serious future prime minister of Israel.
Is he sensitive to the issues that are important to you?
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. I've talked to him a few times about these issues. He is, he's a politician and he's working in this crazy system, so he's trying to somehow deal with these issues through all different parties, different approaches, different agendas. But he's a good guy, obviously.
Let's take a look at a clip from Eytan Fox's film Sublet.
So, have fun, yeah? Enjoy real Tel Aviv.
Wait. Why don't you just stay here tonight? Until you figure something out.
Thanks, but it's cool. I'm used to subletting my place and crashing at other people's.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I mean, you just stay on the sofa. And maybe in return, you could continue to be my tour guide. Keep showing me around the city like you did today.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What if I'm, a serial killer? Or you could be a serial killer. I mean, you never know.
I don't want to give away what this film is about because it's just so powerful, and some of the issues are really, as great filmmakers do, they they don't really let you know until it's over. And so I'm not going to get into some of the key issues, but let me raise with you, Eytan, you mentioned surrogacy, the question of same-sex marriage. In the United States, that's now accepted. Men and women are able to have relationships. You've had a relationship for what, 30 some odd years?
33 years.
Partner,
Yeah.
who, by the way, was the producer of this film.
Yeah, one of the producers. Yeah. Yes.
Which is just, beautiful. And, why can't you even have a child? Why can't you, have a situation where your health insurance, so in Israel, it's not as much of a problem as it is in the United States, but still that certain things are shared.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, if you walk down Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, you'll see tens of couples of gay men with the carriages and their babies. So I think people are asking me, why are all your gay friends in Israel having babies, having children? I said, it's a Jewish thing. I think it's a Jewish thing where family is so important. Having children, having whatever is very important. And I think parents who are not, who don't feel that comfortable with the fact that their kids are gay, it doesn't matter that he's gay as long as he brings me a child or a grandchild, and now that it's an option, so people, I think, are feeling more comfortable about us, for that matter. It is an option today, just like Michael says to Tomer in the film, in Sublet. When we were the right age, it wasn't a real option. And today, when it is an option, we feel too old. We somehow feel that, we're too old to do this. I sometimes ask myself why I did not become a father. I could have, yes, gone abroad and find a wonderful surrogate mother and become a father with Gal. I think it has to do with the fact that I grew up with them in a world that was very homophobic. And the idea that I could be part of a family, that I could have a spouse, that I could have children was unheard of, And I think a lot of that homophobic world kind of penetrated into my soul. I really think so. This sounds very melodramatic or very psychological kind of stuff, but I think so. And I think that deep inside, the feeling that maybe I'm not, I shouldn't become a father, maybe gay men should not be fathers, maybe we're not worthy of becoming parents. All those elements were there. They were there. I don't know if they're there today, but they're also in Michael's soul, in Michael's character's soul, in Michael's character, and he talks about his father not being very supportive about the idea of them having children, about Michael and his partner, David, having children. So I think that is in the soul of many gay men of my generation. We will never get married. We will never have long-term relationships. We will never have children. We will never have families. And things have changed. I worked a lot for things to change, but I think in some of us, there's still this thing, this very bad thing, for that matter, this very sad thing. By the way, I was thinking about it. Okay, so we have Michael, who's played by John Benjamin Hickey. His partner in the film, his husband in the film, is my friend Peter Spears, and I should say Mazal Tov to Peter because he's a producer who just won the Oscar. I sent him a picture. Theaters were opening in Tel Aviv, just opened a week ago. I sent him a picture of the poster of Nomadland, and a poster of Sublet. And I said, look, our films are out there together. And, the world's back, theaters are back, films are back. It's a very wonderful experience. Yeah.
John Benjamin Hickey won a Tony back in 2011, and he can be seen now on HBO's In Treatment. Just a wonderful actor. Maybe just in closing, so you've told us a lot about what brought you to make this film. In the end, because you have a non-Hebrew speaking character in Michael, most of the film is in English.
Yeah.
Was that intentional in any sense to make it a broader, more accepted film? And do you believe that in the general community that the anti-Israel, the BDS character is going to hurt? And in the gay, in the LGBTQ community, that they will just push that aside and say, wow, let's embrace this. What a beautiful film. Or it's too early to know?
No, it is a question. You know, this last war of ours did not help Israel, and it's what people think about it worldwide. I hope people realize that this is a different kind of film. It's a film about people loving each other, trying to understand each other. It represents the good Israel, as far as I'm concerned, Israel that is peaceful, looking for peace, looking for solving its problems and not continuing its problems. So I hope, people, I can understand criticism of Israel, its policies, its governments, and so on and so forth. But we're filmmakers in Tel Aviv who make our films, and we want to reach people worldwide and hope that they understand us, understand Tel Aviv through us, understand the real good Israel as far as we're concerned through us. I didn't use English in order to reach a larger audience. I used English because, as we spoke before, I have English inside of me. I miss speaking English with my parents. I miss speaking English in general. So I had a chance to work in English and direct in English. And yeah, it was a great pleasure to work in English with John Benjamin Hickey, with all the actors who had to speak English with him, the crew members. It was a great experience.
And what a beautiful job that Niv Nisim does in his debut acting performance. Really, credit to you as the director. What a delight. Sublet is a film that really is breaking new boundaries. That's what Eytan's been doing all of his life. Eytan, it's a film that must be seen. Eytan, I want you to just keep breaking those rules and those boundaries and doing wonderful, wonderful film work. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much.